Hello, everybody. How are you? It's really great to see you in here on a Friday afternoon. My name is John McAuliffe. I'm the Director of Creative Manchester, which is a university research platform. And what we try to do is we put together researchers from different parts of the university, very often with cultural partners right across the region as well. And one of our great partners has been the British Pop Archive at the John Rylands Research Institute and Library, and we're really delighted that Matt Bancroft is going to be leading, or going to be doing some of the introductions today for Karen and the team as well for this really, really terrific event with its absolutely fantastic title about waking up and being somebody, which I think about, and I have been thinking about since this event got announced. I am now going to read out a protocol script as well, because as you know, there's an encampment across the road, and there may be protesters who might want to come in and talk about what they're protesting about as well. And if they do, we're going to let them speak and say their say. And now they may not, but if anything does happen, we have kind of a risk register for that, and we have campus support staff around to deal with that as well. So I just wanted to say that to you all before we start. And now I'm going to hand over to Matt Bancroft from the John Rylands Research Institute and Library.
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Bancroft. I'm the curator of the British Pop Archive. The Pop Archive is based at the John Rylands Library and is part of the university's special collections. It's a project with a national focus, based in Manchester rather than it being a Manchester-specific archive. And it collects material connected to UK popular culture, youth culture, and counterculture. It launched publicly in spring 2021 and continues to grow at pace. This project, which we launched publicly today, with this panel discussion, was instigated by Keith Lee Brandy, who wanted us and others to both investigate these lesser-known Manchester urban music stories, question why they are lesser known, and to encourage renewed conversations around them, and importantly, to see how they can be an inspiration to current and subsequent generations. Following on from this event, we plan to hold future events where we can bring more people together to discuss, document, and inspire. If you're interested in those events, please keep an eye on the university's, Creative Manchester's, and the John Rylands social channels. We don't have a set event yet, which it's in the planning, so I was hoping to be able to announce it today, but we haven't quite got there yet. I won't waste any more time, so it's my pleasure to introduce our chair for this discussion, Karen Gabay, and our panellists, or most of them, Keith Lee Brandy, Trevor Moffat, Charlie Henry, and very soon, Sylvia Teller. Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Matt. So, hello everyone, afternoon, and welcome to Wake Up and Be Somebody, which is uncovering lost urban music stories in Manchester. And as Matt said, I'm joined by soon to be four, musical Mancunians, singer Charlie Henry from the band Spooky, guitarist Trevor Moffat of the Reality Band. We're hoping that Sylvia Teller, singer and songwriter, will be joining us. And of course got Keith Lee Brandy here, who was from Kilowatt Sound back in the day. We're kind of reflecting back on the stories from the 60s, 70s and 80s and what it was like growing up black in Manchester. We're aware that there were DJs, soundmen, musicians and singers who make up the fabric of Manchester, but what we're aware of, and has been the discussion for some time, is that those stories aren't really part of the popular Manchester narrative, and we know that a lot of these musicians made up the background and were the foundation for, many bands that came out of Manchester, such as Simply Red and artists like that, and Lisa Stansfield. So sorry about that. So we're just going to hear some of the stories of what it was like for the musicians here and the promoters of growing up in that time. And just to say that this conversation will be followed by a DJ set from Hugh Clark after this. And Hugh, who's in the audience, I have to always remind people he was the first DJ to play a record at the Hacienda. Good as well as, And Ewan, I have to say this, you have to remember, keep asking him, what was the first record? He keeps saying he can't remember. Anyone who knows, do let us know. So I'm just going to start now by asking you all about the early beginnings and often when I talk to musicians, whether they're, whether they've just been jobbing musicians or they've really come through internationally, a lot of people say from the 70s that they had youth clubs and they had often great music and arts teachers, and I'm wondering what it's like for all of you. So first, Keith Lee, what got you into music?
What got me into music was being able to watch Top of the Pops when I was small. I'm sure you all remember Top of the Pops. Being inspired by, some of the black international stars that used to come on, and also being able to go out to see some of them on stage. Now, it was our local youth club that kind of inspired me as well, because of the music dances that they used to put on. So from an early age, I was being inspired by what was available to us at that time, and the early television.
Which youth club? Because I think they're always important. Which youth club was yours?
My youth club was next to us. You all know it as a powerhouse now, but it used to call Mossad Youth Club back in the day.
And Trevor, how about for you? What got you inspired?
Right, yeah, I got sort of influenced in a slightly different way, really. Kind of having peer group friends from school, particularly my best friend and my brother, who's sadly passed away. He's one of the members of the reality band. But our kind of connection and whole kind of kick-off of our kind of musical career was instigated by, we used to go to a youth club in Stretford, and there was a guy there called Bernard, and this guy, he was full of energy, and there's something about him, I don't know, he had this expertise and specialism in playing calypso folk songs on an acoustic guitar. No, just really sort of basic stuff, really. But he always had a story and a message for us. And there was something about him, and we connected with him. We saw him for the first time. We went week after week. Then he started to teach us, tried to teach us some of the style of calypso and folk songs. And we talked about the messages. And the big thing for us, really, was that it helped us to get a better understanding of our kind of Caribbean heritage, some of the really silly stories and about discipline and funny stories as well. So that's where we sort of got a real kind of interest initially, and things went on from there.
And for me, for me it was, to be honest, I've got to tell you, I think I went to youth club and there were girls, and so
It's a long time ago.
I've got to tell like it is. And when we got the band going and just rehearsed in the room, we found that we became more popular. So it was one of those things. That's basically, there was two things that we in our little environment that were the two key things where we saw black people being successful, which was music and football. And I played for the football team already. The only alternative then was to get in the band and see if we could go with that. And it was successful in more ways than one.
And just let us know about what type of music, when you actually perform Spooky, what type of music did your band perform?
We played sort of soul, more middle of the road. One of the strange things I was want to say is that we were a band, we were signed as a black band, portraying black music, and as soon as we signed the record deal, the first thing we got told was that music's too black, which is a really hard thing to do, so we had to water it all down, change the way we played to make it more palatable to the audience that were going to buy the records. So.
Story doesn't change in some ways, does it?
No.
So who were you signed to?
We signed to Decca Records. It was quite a famous signing. They had other famous people at rock bands, and we were the first black act they signed.
And then you had an interesting story, Trevor, about who your band, Reality Band, caught the attention of. You would tell everybody about Eddie Grant.
Oh yeah, because our record label wasn't so kind of glamorous as Charlie's really. We were signed. We signed, but it was on a white label. It was Elephant Records. Not a very exciting name, but the guy behind that was Eddie Grant, and a very supportive guy really. And we went down to London, because you can imagine a group of young lads, sort of 17, 18, 19 years of age, going down to London, going to record a 12-inch. It was so exciting. Obviously we didn't know what to expect really, but the issue for us at the time was, I suppose, not getting a level of the profile, the marketing, because we thought we had a decent song, but when you compare it to Charlie's situation with Spooky, they had a lot more, like a big kind of lot more machinery behind them in their marketing. And I think, did you guys get on TV?
Yeah, I did quite a lot of TV.
Yeah.
And Keithley, do you remember growing up and hearing their music, and what did you think of it as, it's like people are on the road, you think it's the big time, so what was that like?
Well, me and Charlie and some of the other guys, we all went to the same school. So I used to hang around with the boys at the time when they was doing, in the early days when they was doing, when they first started up doing rehearsing. So as I was one of the spectators, they allowed me to sort of bang on some bongo drums initially before they actually went out. And being part of something like that, that certainly gave me some good inspiration towards communication and collaborating with my own peer group.
Now, we don't really hear about your band so much, but you were really cutting through, not only in Manchester but beyond. So just tell us what the club and the pub scene's like. There's a lot of talk now that the scene was really rich back then, and you hear that from people who are still playing music and people who established that Manchester, but the whole British circuit was rich. So what was it like? What kind of places were you playing?
Yeah, I think for the reality band, obviously I'm still playing a bit of music now with a different band, but back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, we were doing it full time. So we were signed up with an agency, and a majority of the work we did was at social clubs. So we were like a show band. Them days you couldn't just play on stage and play song after song after song. You had to have a message and a show. And so we sang songs, but we also did lots of dancing, lots of entertainment, lots of stories.
What were the suits like?
We should have had some photos of the suit. Not as flashy as Spooky, but we did have silver suits. And high shoes. I did with high shoes. Platform, that's it, platforms. So yeah, we had some funky clothes really, which was really interesting. But we always seemed to be kind of slotted us between the bingo and, excuse me when I say this, and sometimes at them days we used to have strippers, especially in the northeast. I don't know young kids here, but that's the reality, and but at the same time as kind of trying to earn a living, going around the country and spending a week, say, in the northeast, and we were spending a week in the northeast and maybe in Cumbria in a small village at a place called Millom. I don't know if you heard of the place.
Yes.
Really small. I think even now the population is still reducing. There's about, I think, 5,000 population in Millom. But you can think about it back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, the 80s, when kind of 6 black guys would turn up at this in the village. We'd do our gig, and even though we were welcomed, by the punters in the club, sometimes we weren't that welcome when we packed up and got ready to go. We often had 1 or 2 issues, and I suppose the main kind of stuff around that was in the northeast, where we had to deal with skinheads, and at the time it was quite scary, really. But in some ways, it built a bit of resilience in us. It made us stronger, and it's just one of those things you learn, really. And I suppose it helped us to grow as individually as well. So I talked about those sort of gigs. Those are our bread and butter gigs we did through the agencies. And then we developed our own kind of local interest, local followers in Old Trafford. Used to be a place called the Seymour pub, and we used to play there on a Wednesday every fortnight. And we started doing one gig, and the place, initially it was only 4 or 5 people in there. By the time we'd done 20 gigs, the place was heaving. We had our followers. It was just a great atmosphere, great learning, and a lot of our peer musicians would come to watch us as well. You know, and those, to be honest, those days for me, I can't replay them really. They're so special. Yeah.
And how was it for you performing in Manchester and outside?
Very much similar to Trevor, because what we did, we didn't join the same agency, but the agencies booked the same venues. So we'd either be there the week before them or the week after them. We used to share the chat in terms of when you go there, expect this, because some of the nastiness was, they were waiting for us to arrive, which is really weird to see.
Ask you, sorry to interrupt you there. What I've heard from some bands, even internationally, is that in some of the smaller places, like the shutters would go down on shops as you arrived and things like that. Did that happen to you?
I never saw that, but I did. I remember doing a gig, an audience similar like this, and as I was singing, a gentleman opened a newspaper, and every time we finished a song, he'd put it down all the way through the gig. Everybody else is clapping, but this person just sat there like that. You just gotta, you walk past it and you get on with it. It's like, it's one of those things where it's not nice, but at the end of it, we had to look at, we're doing professional like Trevor was, we're gonna get paid, so you did it.
Do you think that, you know, you said earlier as well that record labels wanted you to modify your sound. So do you think also they were thinking about always appealing to a wider audience, and that affected how your careers progressed as well in terms of they looked at your audience?
Yeah, very much so, because it isn't, I mean, ultimately, you want to be successful, and you want to be successful in the place you live. And I live, I'm a Manchester boy, proud of Manchester. But the reality is that if you're going to sell records, you've got to get as many people as possible to buy your record. So if your direction's saying, well, this is not going to sell, you've got to go down that road. So it's a no-brainer, really, isn't it?
And you went into promotion, so around at that similar time. So in terms of the things that you promoted, the artists you promoted, who did you then select? Did you want to try and keep it as much, you know, that you were supporting black acts, or did you go wider than that? And what was it like as a black promoter?
Well, it's who you knew, and I went for, you know, promoting artists for the local club PSV, such as Brown Sugar. Karen Wheeler, who she's now in Soul to Soul, she came down along with a panel of other artists such as David Rodigan. I did bring him down I think I was the first one to bring him down here in 1983, and also another artist from Jamaica called Captain Sinbad as well.
And so PSV, for people who don't know, give them a bit of a background about that club, because that's the other thing, there's places aren't there anymore, so certain people are like...
They used to call it the Russell Club.
Yeah.
It was the Russell Club that, you know, most Mancunians would have known it as, and then it was taken over by a group of bus drivers. PSV, Public Service Vehicle. I think there's a lot more that other people in the audience would be able to tell you more about.
Quite an interesting venue, isn't it? Very interesting.
It was in Hume.
Yeah, and there's flyers that have emerged, and so they had so many bands. They had punk bands, reggae bands.
Yeah, good mix.
A really good mix of bands that was just, which really meant that people in the community didn't really have to go very far because it was on your doorstep, wasn't it?
It was local. It was always local.
Right in the heart of Hume, really, isn't it? And then it's a bit unusual because you wouldn't normally get a nightclub in the middle of a residential area and get away with it. I think, I don't know if that was part of its demise, because I think as time went on there were, you know, increasing numbers of problems and troubles, disturbances in the end. But I'm not sure why it ever closed down. But an interesting place. You know, you would attend there, always knowing you get well entertained, but you'd have to be careful on the way out. There might be some issues on the way. You might be ducking and diving. Yeah, it's a bit of a kind of example of what it's like them days. I don't know what you guys, am I painting such a negative view of the Russell, or too negative view?
No, I even say no.
Does that reflect what the reality of the time, what it was like?
Because it's interesting about rose-coloured glasses. There were a lot of clubs around then. There were a lot of places, from Cabaret to the Golden Garter that Black Hats played at, wasn't there? To, as you say, to the Russell Club, as to Placemate 7 people talk about. What was it like for black acts emerging then? Were there a lot of you around playing? We know Sylvia's not here yet. Sylvia's path was a little bit different. She got discovered at 14 by Frank Farian, so before she even got into Lovers Rock, she went down the Boney M route. I don't know if people are aware of that, but do people know who Boney M are?
Yeah.
So just to tell you the story before she gets, so the guy in the group, Bobby, Sylvia used to perform behind the curtain. She was the man's voice. She was Bobby live. Oh, yeah. And she got spotted in a Manchester club at 14 by Frank Farian, who was behind Milli Vanilli and Boney M. So that's was her route in. But we hear that a lot of you went to the same schools, went to Juicy, a lot of you, St Alphonsus Youth Group, the Mossack Burley High. There's a lot of people that came through right across the board, whether it's Barry Adamson, Yvonne Shelton, lots of you. So was it a very rich time, or is it something to be disputed? Of how it was for you?
Mixed really. I think you mentioned the Golden Garter. And Poco Club. I don't know if there's anyone here familiar with that in Stockport.
Wow.
Is it still? It's still going, isn't it? Oh, it's
No, it's houses now.
I went there.
You went?
Right. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
There I was a child.
Yeah. Well, we used to get, I won't say regular, but we used to get gigs there every so often, and that's another venue where you had to do a show. You couldn't really just go and play songs and and not speak much to the audience. You had to entertain, otherwise you wouldn't get rebooked. But them days, I mean, I think compared to these days, them days, the influence of the agencies were big. The JMEC Entertainments. What was the other one in
Barry
Warrington?
Collins.
Oh, we still going, yeah.
There were lots of these agencies that they kind of control these clubs, so we could never go in and try and get bookings on our own. Where these days, I think a lot of younger musicians have a bit more control over where they play, and they, with social media, they can develop their own kind of, fan base, and even go and hire a room and do a gig and make it viable. But them days, you could get shut out if you upset some agencies.
Yeah, very much.
Because they took a big cut off your fee. Them days, it would take 25, 30%, sometimes 40%
Really?
off your fee. Yeah. And you sign up to them, and like we were signed up with a management agency who were linked to the Dooley family. You've heard of Dooleys? You're probably a bit too young to pick up.
All very young.
They were quite a famous band, really, and I'm surprised no one's actually heard of them. Yeah, one person's heard of the Dooleys. We were under the same management company, and we got their hand-me-downs. So when they got a new van, we got their old second-hand van, and they, it's all kitted out, really, really nice. We didn't complain at the time. There's no complaining because we just felt privileged at the time. And it's similar, we'd get some of their supporting gigs. Shawadi Wadi, we support Shawadi Wadi, The Real Thing, that kind of thing. So we did just an off-spin there, but we always hoped and lived in hope, and we have faith that we might, one of our records might break, and we might end up, well-paid musicians. It never happened really. So, yeah.
Was it hard for you, because growing up with what people don't sometimes get, growing up with Caribbean parents, a bit hardcore about doing music for a living. It's a little bit different now. So what were you allowed to just go and make music?
Our parents were so good. I mean, I must admit, I'm surprised. My parents and the bass players' parents, they supported us. They stumped up money for our PA, encouraged us, made sure we were properly geared up and had the right insurances to go abroad. We, worked in Europe, Norway, Denmark, Sweden. They were very supportive. And it's funny as well because I suppose like when we worked in places like Denmark and Sweden, being a musician was like a proper job. Mm-hmm. It was you got more recognition. Over here, it wasn't really. It was you're seen as a bit of a lazy guy kind of thing at that time. I noticed that straight away in like when we played in Norway. You played at a night a restaurant. They didn't have any DJs. We played all the music, so you do 4 45-minute spots. You work quite hard, and you do that six nights a week. And again, they want entertaining, not just playing music. But there was a difference. There was a quite significant difference how you were treated over there. You were treated like proper, given what's the word for it? Respect.
Can I just say, Trev, because you saying that your parents were supportive? Mine weren't. Mine
Well,
were
that's
like,
interesting too. Yeah.
it wasn't a career choice that, to decide I was going to go be a musician. It just wasn't on the cards.
Yeah.
I left school and got a job. I was working for the tax office. So as far as my parents were concerned, I'd achieved.
Wow.
You know, I was a clerk. I was a files clerk. I was shuffling papers all day. But in terms of Caribbean perspective, my son had got some good prospects. To go home and say that we've got a gig in Germany and it's 2 weeks and I'm leaving my job wasn't a good thing to tell my dad. I think he just sat back and thought, you know, there used to be a big place around at the time, Dunlop's, where most black people got a job. So I think my dad thought that if he doesn't go there, he's going to work at Dunlop's anyway. So you were going to work, you were going to earn a living. But it wasn't supportive. And to be fair, if I had took a contract to him and said, can you go through this with me? That was never going to happen. So a lot of times we were sort of linked into the people who could help us.
Well.
Make an entrance.
Big apologies, my lovely people. But trust me. You can see why I'm breathing better. I ran like the clappers.
So just introducing you to Sylvia Teller.
Nice to meet you all.
Respect, man, respect.
So I'll just give you a little intro, a little catch-up. I've told them a little bit about your teenage years with Boney M. Give them a touch with that.
Freeze, I'm Heartbreaker.
And just so that you know that Sylvia had an interesting route into music. Her dad ran a shebeen in Cheetham Hill.
Yeah.
And also Sylvia's career, you know, some people see her as a lovers rock star, queen of lovers rock, but she's done a lot of pop music, so not just with Steel Pulse, the Blow Monkeys and people like that.
Yeah.
She's had an array of like music. So we were just talking though about what it was like with your parents' support, and you had a different route. So when you decided that you were going to go, when you started to make it in music, what did your parents think?
Well, my dad thought it was a horse game. Right, so he was deterring us forever. And back then, women wasn't the forefront anyway, you know. I mean, we still have that same kind of problem now. But if you've got a big mouth like me, you kind of demand the respect and you get it. And if you can do the job that you're in front of you to do, and you can do it. I mean, a lot of us women, in my time anyway, we looked up to the men. They were the pioneers. So it wasn't a problem then. It became a problem when you became equal footing and you had the same fan base, or you were all on the same shows. You were still treated less, you know, back then. But unless you... For me, I can't really speak for the rest of the women, because some people say to me, oh, what's it like in the music business with all the bitchiness and all this and that? I never got that. And I think it depends on you as an individual. You know, what are you saying, Queen? How are you? Yeah, so it depends on you as an individual. And at the same time, yeah, we always did have problems because the world is run by men. But if we're talking in the...
I'm going to get the straight talking now.
Yeah, sorry. My name's Teller. I tell it like it is. But seriously, I think today it's a lot more better because we've proven ourselves as women. You know, we've had the women's rights, we have the right to vote, we've had a whole heap of people gone before us and made it a lot easier. So we can't forget that. And at the same time, we're living a different life now. People are looking at the talent and the craft, not at the sexuality. So we've come a long way.
So just to ask the other guys though on the panel, because it's different times, everyone's always saying that, but were you aware that it was harder for black women to come through? Because, you know, if you think about in the Manchester scene, like in particular we're talking about those stories, if I had to say to you about who were the black women around when you're coming up, are you able to tell us? Do you know what it was like for them?
I think, you know, we actually had, you know, during the early days, we had some female singers in the band. And I think, looking back, you know, the band was obviously predominantly men, boys. And we didn't really, we weren't very supportive. I have to be honest with
yeah.
you.
We all have to agree with
there's
that.
only one changing room, and we often didn't sort of, the lads leave the room and let her get dressed.
Yeah.
And we didn't think about it. So I kind of reflected on that before today, and I have to admit, hold my hands up. These days we couldn't get away with that really.
No, you couldn't. But back then, like I was trying to explain, it was about the craft. And you had the men who were pioneering.
Yeah.
That what you're saying, I had to lift up boxes, speaker boxes. I was one of the guys. You know what I mean? You wasn't treated like, oh, she's the woman.
Equal.
No, you were equal. So you had to do the same jobs as the men.
Yeah.
The point that I know what my girl is saying is what we still have today. We don't get the credit.
Yeah.
We could do the job, but we don't get the credit.
Yeah.
And that's not just black women, that's all women.
Yeah.
So have you got anything to say on that, Charlie? What did you reflect about it? And it's also not about treatment, it's also about who was there, because the other thing is we're trying to remember and recall who was around, and there's always somebody, which you might be able to tell me, there's another Lovers Rock singer from that era, and there's a guy who does all the promotion, and he rings me every 3 years and says he's looking for somebody called Ginger.
Yeah, Ginger Williams.
So
she was
that's-
amazing.
so-
She's from... is it Nottingham or Birmingham?
What thing
She's
she
actually come
yeah,
back
but
out.
you know what I mean? It's like who was around then, is it?
Where? Was she
Yeah,
from Old Trafford?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Manchester.
Local. She's amazing. Yeah, there's a
So
lot
anyway,
of local.
Yeah. Well, I can honestly say, when in the band, I told you the reason that I joined. So
You joined for the girls.
I joined for the girls. So to be fair,
What, with your high tone voice?
it's crazy. She's right.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So basically, girls were part of the journey.
Of
You know what
course.
I mean? It was, and as Trevor said, it never entered our head that we were being discriminatory, because it was a norm.
Yeah.
But
The
with a-
team, isn't
go
it?
on,
The
yeah.
team, anyway, everybody sort of rolled the sleeves up and got on with it, really.
Yeah, pioneering.
Yeah.
It's a different... If that happened now, you'd be taking them to
Yeah.
discrepancy. What is it called?
Discrimination.
Yeah.
What about, because you talked about Karen Wheeler promotion, in terms of the women that kind of passed through in that era, were there a lot, were there a lot of women around, or not? Because some of the women from that
No,
era...
the women were there, but they was never given the recognition that was due. I grew up in a household where it was where my mother, she's the person who always looking out for other people, and she's the type of person who gave me that kind of confidence in order to go out there to try and see what I can do. And part of my skills as a promoter was also to try to bring on types of functions like fashion shows and designer shows to get them involved, rather than everything just being there for the guys itself. So where you've got a collective and everybody's working together rather than working in isolation. So, with regards to that, I hold my hands up for my mum. It's my mother, that's Mrs. Brandy, who actually instigated me and gave me the confidence to do that.
And she was involved in Carnival, wasn't she?
She's one of the first ones who actually helped to start. Yeah, this is Mrs. Brandy from Moss Side, Manchester.
Yeah, man.
I have to also add, some positive stuff there, because they helped us. Mrs. Brandy was really a big icon for us. She got us to play at the carnivals as well. Really encouraged us, continually encouraged us. So we remember for today, we talk about her today. What a woman, yeah.
Amen.
Mrs. Brandy, she was a councillor of Moss Side.
Yeah, you see, we'll get there when we give the women the recognition. So, Sylvia, as well, just because you've come into it, if you, we're talking about what it was like in the 70s and 80s in Manchester, performing.
Brilliant.
So, tell us some of the places where you performed and what kind of music you were performing then.
Okay. Well, back in the day, we had the Mecca circuits, right? It was mainly cabaret. People would eat their dinner while you're singing, right? Didn't get to me until later on, when you're playing at the big posh places, and after a while you get wise and you think, well, let me eat and I'll just wait. So there was them kind of jobs. But the jobs that I liked when I really started, was the community jobs. Because it's your people that set you up, right? Once your people, your community, accept you, because it's through them I've got a career, right? It was my community. There was a guy called John D, right? He was a black DJ on Piccadilly Radio, right? And I have to give him his flowers, and I'll talk about him for the rest of my life, because he was the one who had the foresight to do a competition, a talent competition, right, in Manchester at the Russell Club. You might know it as the PSV Club, right? And it was for everybody in the, as you would call ghetto, but I would call community, Hume and Moss Side, right? So my sister-ins and family members were saying, oh, you can sing. And started pushing me forward, and I was like, nah, I was 12, 13. Anyway, I entered, and I won the first heat. Then you go on to the finals. Won the finals, right? And it was a big thing for me, because I'd been singing, I wanted to sing around the area, but you had to be known, right? Anyway, through that, I had ended up having a group called Samakundo, which was local musicians from around the area. In fact, we were learning to play, right? So we'd play like in the community centres, social clubs, all the pubs, you name it, we played at it, right? And then we got bigger gigs like the Mayflower, which was some big old building. Do you remember it?
Where was
right.
that?
So, yeah, that was the place to play at, man. When you got there, you thought you'd made it. Right, so we'd gone from community, social clubs, pubs, the Mayflower, the Mecca Circuit. The Mecca Circuit is where all the big artists, I remember seeing one of my favourite groups at that time. I think it was Bay City Rollers. And we were supporting them. It was brilliant just to be on the same place as those artists, you know. So when we started, that's how we started. The community, your people that you lived with, they made you. Once you've been accepted by them, I think you've got the confidence, and plus you get the opportunities then to play at bigger places. So that's why I started. And I think most of us started like that.
That Mecca circuit was a very important thing. It was a measurement of success.
Thank you.
When you got on that thing, then you knew you were like, you were recognised.
I was on that.
Even though it was only that level, it was still like.
Well, you know what's interesting about that is when I've spoken to international artists, and they all remember that circuit, particularly in Manchester, you know.
Yeah.
Because they say, for the reasons that it's quite a tough place, so
To
it
get
really
in,
helped them.
number one.
Yeah.
Number two, anybody that's in there, they're all celebrities, as you call it, right? We were up and coming, right? And it's like, I don't know what the equivalent is today, festivals or big major events, you know. I don't know, my biggest event after that was where I got discovered by Bonnie M. In London. What was it called, that club? They all used to go there to do their...
The Q Club.
No, the Q Club was a place I used to rave. That was the place. No, this one was, I think it was in Mess. It was in the West End. It was a club where all the artists went, right? What was it? No.
Bag of Nails?
Not Ronnie's.
No. When I say it, you go, oh yeah. Well, this is the place where they all went when they were doing Top of the Pops. So they used to pre-record it on a Wednesday. Can't figure out, it's memory loss, getting old.
Somebody will remember.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the club, because you'll know it when I say the name. It's a famous club where all the artists, and that was the time I was the artist for the night. If you want to know the truth, I got blacklisted in Manchester from the Mecca circuits, because in them days, if you're going to talk about women being treated unfairly, this was one of those occasions.
Talk to the mic.
Oh, this was one of those occasions, right? No. Yeah, I'll remember it in a while. But anyway, I was saying, so I'd done Opportunity Knocks, and it come Huey Green's final year, right? So they did Nationwide. And, of course, we was in the documentary of Nationwide, and we felt really proud because we made it. Anyway, long story short, he was a dirty old man, and I was a young girl. And he tried it, and he got a pot on his head, and I got blacklisted.
Oh, wow.
Right? Oh, yeah, well, that's why I said I don't know about the Me Too. I mean, I know about it, but it never happened to me.
Yeah.
But it could have happened to me. Right? But I'm street, so... Anyway, so I got blacklisted, so all the Mecca circuits were off balance for me. So I ended up... just about to say the name because it came to me. I think it's Gulliver's. Gulliver's, yeah. I think it's Gulliver's. That was the name. It was the most famous club. Anyway, like I said, got blacklisted, and I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? Anyway, we got a gig at this place called Gulliver's, and we're going to London the second time. The first time, it was terrible. We went to we played at the Carnival, and there was a big riot. I think it was 72 or 73. There was some big riot there. We were in the van, and the van's being pushed everywhere, right? So that was our first experience in London on a festival, right? And that was the Carnival, the first Carnival, and I've done that many times. But the second time was this club called Gulliver's. They're in place to be. Anybody who plays there, you have to be somebody. So I felt like a superstar. So I've gone there to do this gig. I see Smokey Robinson, hot chocolate. Everybody I see on telly, I'm in awe, mate. Seriously, right? And I'm going, oh my God, that's and that's another. But there was a group called, I think they did win Eurovision Song Contest. What were they called? Brotherhood of Man. I didn't even know who they were, right? But being a northerner, I asked, well, who are you? Oh God. Shouldn't have said that. They didn't like me after that. But that was my experience, right? Gulliver's Club. That was the place to feel like you were somebody. And I got discovered by Bonnie M there. Yeah, I was 15. Toured the world from 15. Freeze, I'm Mark Baker. Put your hands in the air and give me all your money.
For those who don't know, that's in the song.
Mar Baker. So Sylvia went on as well to get deals. You had a major deal with Decca, one of the oldest record companies. But I just want to ask, why do you think your career stalled with them? Was it naivety because you were from the north? Or was it just one of those music industry things?
I think it's... music industry is not a nice place, right? Yeah. And you've got to be a particularly tough, resilient person to keep taking the knocks and be focused on where you want to go. It becomes quite difficult when, for me, especially in the band, there was 8 guys who I grew up with, and decisions, I was like the band leader, so I was making decisions that impacted on their lives as well. And if I made a wrong one, then I had 7 people telling me it was my fault. So when it came to we had a chance, we'd signed a record deal, and back in the day, this chair's spinning round. Back in the day, we got paid a lot of money to sign this record deal, not knowing that when you do sign a record deal, if you get an advance, you're going to pay that out of whatever you earn. So we're walking around like kings, spending this money like it's free, only to find out that when it came down to it, we owed everybody in the world, and it's one of those things where you're having to rethink your drive, your focus, what you're going to do. And Decca Records, you're disposable.
Yeah,
you're very disposable. So as soon as you knock the flavour of the month, then it's hard getting to see the A&R guy to ask him what should we do next. You don't get to see anybody. Nobody's that interested, and eventually it's cheaper just to sign you off. And then you find the difficulties. And once you've been at a record company and you've not got a track record, it's hard to get another deal. It's really difficult because who wants what's been used? So it's one of those things.
And was there anybody, like any other groups that you could speak to about it in the scene back then? Like, was there anybody else going through something similar in terms of black artists in Manchester? Then?
Well, yeah, I mean, we talk about other black artists, but we forget about, there's a group called Sweet Sensation, who were local guys, and they had number 1. And every time I see the European, what's it called now? Eurovision Song Contest, we forget they actually represented England for that. I sang at one of the lead singers, Marcel's, funeral, and it was really weird, not weird, it was nice to see so many people who had good memories of what's gone on before us and what can still happen. So it's...
I grew up with all them guys.
Yeah. Virtually all of us.
All of us
have been sort of like, watching each other grow, fall, and even recently I was
working
backing
with
vocal
for me.
Sylvia's.
But you see, with me, right, it's different when it comes to record companies. So I've always been independent. I've had my label since I was 23 years of age, and that I think now it's worse for record companies because they owe me a lot of money because they use your stuff and they think, well, because you're independent, you don't know. Now you know because of live streaming and downloads and all of these things. But back then, like you were saying with Decca, I mean, I worked for Decca, I worked for every record company you could think of, but I was independent. And if I worked for them and had hits with them, like, I'll give you an example. Blow Monkeys. I had a hit with them called It's Your Choice Now, Now. That tune, I didn't even have a release, I didn't even sign the release thing. I was working for them as a backing vocalist. Dr. Robert phoned me and said, Sylv, I've got this tune, man, and I've wrote it for you. I know you're going to love it. I just thought, well, it's another session. I'm going to get paid. I went down to the studio, did the tune. While I was there was these record company guys. They were signed to BMG then, right? And they were listening to the tracks that they'd already pre-recorded, right? When they got to the track that I'd done with them, they kept saying, this is the one, this is the one. So I didn't know they were record company guys. To be honest, I thought they were their mates at the studio. Did my job, gone. Next thing I know, get a phone call saying, we're going to be using it as the single. We want you to come to the studio so we can give you the itinerary. We're going to do a video. We're going to do this. We're going to do... I was like, okay. Didn't know it was a tune. When I get down now, it's that tune. Done the videos. Then we were on tour, right? And we were on a Japanese tour. So we were away for a while. Then we got called back to come and do Top of the Pops. The record company's released it. It's gone in at, I think, number 22 or 23. Last time I did Top of the Pops was Bonnie M Days, so I've gone there to do this Top of the Pops. I'm not knowing nothing. I've told my lawyer, and I had a good lawyer then, Anthony Jays, plug, right? And he said to me, well, where's the release form? I didn't know about no release form. I released my own stuff, so I don't know how the record companies do their stuff. Anyway, he's now sent to Corder Marshall. He was head of A&R. I used to love that guy. He was a safe guy. And he said, what, you've got no contract? And I said, no. And the reason they assumed I had a contract. Blow Monkeys were managed by Crockford Management. It was their job as the management to get me. He sent me a letter. I remember being really upset about it. He goes, Sylvia Teller's on the brink of fame and stardom or something, being with the Blow Monkeys. I thought, you cheeky git. I was Queen of Lovers Rock. You know what I mean? With my own stuff. You know what I'm saying? Never even heard of you Blow Monkeys till then, right? So I remember getting really offended. And then he said something else, and I thought, no. So we had a meeting, and he offered me 350,000, right? And because I didn't like him, I said no, right? Because I didn't like the guy. No, there's one thing about me, I'm a vibe person, right? Money's not everything. You know, and I'll quote this again, what is it worth if you sell your soul? You understand me? And that is selling your soul, doing something you don't want to do, you're not into the person, and you just don't like him. He wasn't a decent man. So I turned him down. So that idiot was freaking that the record company was going to get sued, right? Anyway, it was in my favour. I got what I wanted when it comes to, you know, the royalties. I managed to get what I want, which was good. I probably wouldn't have otherwise. But because they messed up and they know I could sue them for everything they've got, and I kept saying to my lawyer, no. They were a band before I came along. Just get me a good, decent royalty, which he did. And that was the story. But I'm to show you that even when you're with record companies, they don't care. They're going to put out the tune. If you don't know any better, then good. If I never had a top lawyer, I wouldn't have known. Just like I never knew about half the things that people have taken my songs, made them as downloads for phone ringtones, advertisements, you name it. I haven't got a penny. Then I look on YouTube, I look on the internet, and it says, you know, Sylvia Teller's worth 2-point-something million. I go, what? Yeah.
Yeah, just on the same tip, I mean, I recorded some stuff with Marvin Gaye, and like, Marvin Gaye's my hero, and I recorded this stuff with him, and it's being played on the radio, and I will never see a penny of that.
Oh, you will?
You
No.
will?
You will, trust me on that.
They are paying, they are.
Listen, when I've got record companies phoning me up saying, we owe you money. Which record company phones you and tells you they owe you money?
Well, also, we're talking about, you know, the stories and you're letting people know you worked with. When did you work with Marvin Gaye? You can't just say that.
Oh, sorry.
And then to say, I'm not going to get any money.
Because I'm so old. It's like, that would have been in 86, I think, 96. Just before he had, I mean, what's really weird, because I was thinking about it yesterday, was the song we recorded was a song called Friends and On the Rocks. And Marvin Gaye plays the keyboards and does a mix for us as well. And the sound that he's using to play on the keyboards is the sound that he uses for sexual healing.
I knew he was going to say that. I knew he was going to say that.
It's really weird.
You got your idea.
I'd like to say it's my idea, but I'm at peace with myself, so don't worry about it.
So was that, and how did, was it he who asked you, or did you ask him? How did that come about?
To be fair, I think you've got to remember Marvin Gaye had peaks and troughs in his life.
Yeah.
And at that time, he was without a record deal, living in England. And
Told you.
our manager was speaking to him, and we just got in the studio and did it. Just one of those things.
Well, there is a lost recording debate that's out now about another Marvin Gaye song, so just take note. Just take note. I mean, the thing is why we're sharing these stories, it's because people can learn from them, because some of the stories just sound like somebody who's 20 today will say, I still might have had that same issue. But also there's things that they can learn from everyone, because people always think it's just something that's now, but there's a history there, isn't there? And you've made mistakes as well as had triumphs, and people can kind of like learn from those. Just because we're talking about your sounds as well, what we haven't said is like the sounds that you're all creating, because we're talking about the music. So I'm going to go to the sound man first, though, when you were part of the sound system, which was one thing that it's been celebrated a lot at recent times. Where did your sound play, and what was your speciality?
The sound that I was a part of was Kilowatt. We played primarily in Old Trafford and around Moss Side, and we played what was called Lovers Rock. Lovers Rock was something for which allowed male and female to be more intimate.
He's
than
trying. I can see your mind thinking. I'm just trying to how I'm going to say. Explain about the rubbing against the wallpaper. Go on.
Wallpaper music.
Well, I mean, it's something for which that your parents wouldn't actually agree with. However, when young people are at a dance and the lights are low and the room is packed and the type of music that is played is very melodic, so melodic that your inhibitions goes away on both sides.
He's talking about himself now.
Too much detail.
So, if you're when you're dancing, you have this communication, and that's where lovers. That's where the lovers rock come from. I don't want to say too much.
The thing that's often not spoken about Lovers Rock, it's very much a British invention.
Yep.
So it was invented by the Brits, and most of the singers, not all, are young women, teenage women. And so that very melodic, sweet sound caught everyone. And so a lot of those artists, now they're older, like, can't hit those high notes, but it really captured a time. And Gregory Isaacs and Dennis Brown say that they were influenced by that sound, not the other way around.
They were.
So
because Lovers Rock, right, he said it good, it is a lover's music, but it was, Jamaica is where you get your reggae music from, let's not forget that, right? And you started with your blue beat, your ska, your rock steady. When that came over, and I can say this proudly because my father used to have a shabib, which was after hours club, where everybody used to go down and listen to the white labels that used to come in the little 15 in a box, right, from Jamaica, of music that was influenced by, would you believe this, country and western. Yeah. So country and western music, right, the artists like your Gregory's, like your John Holt's, were singing those kind of tunes, right, and we were being influenced by it as young up-and-coming artists, because now it's not just our parents listening to the rock steady and the music earlier in that time, but it was influencing us through the creativeness of the artists taking other genres of songs and covering them, because we used to do a lot of covers them days, right? Then on top of that, we as the British, we knew we couldn't play like the Jamaicans, but we had our own style, which was more because the 70s, 60s and 50s and the 40s and the 50s, no, I say 60s, 70s, 80s was the love power shit, right? So everybody was on that love frequency, 14.3. Right, so
you'll have to remember that one for next time.
No, it's true. The songs that were... It's true, though. The songs that were created, though, where, for, as he says, male and female were able now to coo. And it's not just a woman singing those love songs, a man could sing those love songs because that was the frequency we were in. Then, just like the rap music, we were able then to translate the goings-on and the things that affected us in our communities. So that's why Lovers Rock became I would say, the music that represents United Kingdom, or the black music of Europe for us, is because we were able to interpret our message of what was happening to us. And if you look around the world, Jamaica did the same thing with their music. America did the same thing with their music. So music is a universal language, and it speaks the message of what goes on in the households, the communities, the relationships, you know. So where I think now we're being more appreciated is because some of the crap that's out there now, right? I'm being honest, is not getting appreciated because it's not edifying, encouraging and inspiring, right? If it was doing that, I wouldn't have nothing to say, because creatively it's beautiful, everyone's being creative, but the message, and it's not edifying, right? It's not encouraging. Those musicians that pioneered the music that I listened to, that I got influence from, were edifying us, encouraging us, inspiring us. You know what I mean? What are you saying, Sister Queen? I just noticed you there.
So again, just to give people a bit of background as well, so Sylvia's got one of the best-selling Lovers Rock albums of all time.
Spell.
Often not included in the, you know, when they talk about the Queens of Lovers Rock, Carol Thompson and Janet Kay. There is Sylvia, who's sold a ton of records, but people don't realise she's a Manc, which is very much a Manc when you can hear her speak. So
Oh yeah, I'm proud of it. They call me Country Bumpkin in London or anywhere else. But you know why that is? As I said before, independence. You see, being independent means you control how you look, what you say, what you want out there, how you want to be perceived, right? When you're with a record company, you are tapping to their beat.
Exactly.
And if you're not tapping in the same beat that they want, as he says, they shelve you and they stop your growth. I've never had that. In fact, I remember I did a really bandoolie. I'm going to say this live so they can hear me, right? I did a bandoolie to Island Records one time, right? I took the masters. Island Records.
Did a what?
I call it a bandoolie. It means I did a little mad thing. I took the master from the record label. I told them that they said I'm supposed to pick up the master to take to the other studio, and I took it home because, right, the reason I did things like that, right, is because I wasn't signed to them. I did a collaboration with production team that they put me with. I had no contract, but they wanted to control the music. Now remember, I've been independent since I was what? If I say professionally independent, having my label, making money at it, from I was 23. I'm 64, so it's a long time, right? But at the same time, thank you, my love. At the same time, I learned something. Yeah, you look good, my love. You look good. But listen to me good. The only way they can control you and make you lose who you are is by them having the monopoly over everything you do. Yeah. And that's where I got frightened. I thought, well, they want to keep my music, my lyrics, my songs, my voice. I don't even have a deal with them. Oh, I've got to do something about this. I went to the company I recorded it at, which was in Peter Square, told them they needed the master at the other studio. And of course they knew me because I was always in there recording for them, their artists, as well as myself, right? And they gave me the master. And that was the end of that. And I still work with them. I wrote 5 songs for Ernest Rangley for his, I think it was Modern
Rebel.
Languages. Modern Languages, I think it was. Yeah, I wrote 5 songs. So they used me many times. They just didn't know I took the master.
So before we close, I'm going to pass the mic to anyone who's got questions, so that we could talk for hours about this. Has anyone got a question?
Hello, I'd like to say,
Yeah, it's on.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
There was a song in the 80s. I was ripped off as well there. It was called Fool's Gold.
Oh, yeah.
I think I know
Lindsay
that.
Wilson
I know that one.
promoted that. It was my bass line. Thank you.
All right.
Look it up, your money's coming. God sees all things.
Anybody else got
Come on,
questions?
don't be afraid to ask questions.
Zipper.
Oh, Tipper! Where's your keys? Where's your phone?
Zipper.
Zipper Tafari
Give him
Zipper.
the mic,
from Britain's
right?
Got Talent.
You got a celebrity here
Yeah,
as well.
we've got-
Zipper's in
Oh,
the
there's a few here.
Zipper's in the room, man.
Right, greetings to each and every one, yeah. Yeah, what you said about the music industry. Cutthroat, straight up.
You know that.
But you know what? If you're not bona fide and you haven't got your head screwed on, you will directly they'll take advantage. So, 3 cheers for Sylvia Teller for doing what she had to do, because that's all I got to say. So.
Respect, man, respect.
And I've got to respect everybody out there who's trying, like the independents as well. Try and stick to your guns, because they will directly.
Well, to be honest, even in my workshops with my young students, I tell them independence is the way, right? Because if they want you, they'll pay for it. Most of the young people, all right, let's say America, for instance, right? All those young up-and-coming artists were like us when we first started, right? We were lucky that we created our own industry, the reggae industry, right? If we were part of, say, the main industry, we'd have all been swallowed up. You would never have even heard of us, right? Because it's worse now. Back then, they used to sign you for like 3 years, right? And yes, they would dangle the carrot, give you an advance, right? You don't need... I remember doing a video with Blow Monkeys. It cost them something like 100,000. I did special way video. It cost me $3,000. And I had a crate and I had a crane and everything. So they spend money unnecessary, right? So you don't need to do that. But that's what they do. They give you a big amount of money. You think, oh, well, I'll spend it on the album, I'll do the video, buy me clothes, do all that. You forget that they're going to take it out of your royalties and there's no royalties to come.
That's
and you'll
right.
be doing that for the rest of the 3 years before they give you an option, right? Now, it's 15 years they sign these young artists and they give them the option of an insurance, because they're probably going to be dead, so they can claim... Oh, real talk, I'm telling you.
Yes, real talk.
It's real talk.
I don't know if you ever done Glastonbury.
In what? Yeah.
Yeah. I had to do Glastonbury about 12 years ago. And he said, oh, it's a great track what you did on Britain's Got Talent, where's my keys, where's my phone? But can you just change the lyrics? I wear me weed, I wear me draw, I wear me weed, I wear me ganja. But it worked. Anyway, it worked. Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Come on. I'll use the musicians, you know. I don't understand it. We're doing something that I believe that the young people need to hear, because at the end of the day, like I said, you guys are pioneers. I looked up to you guys as well, and we all work together, right? And I said to a young man the other day, I said to him, it was Howard. He phoned me last night by accident, right? He's a bass player from the rest of the bands, yeah? And he said, oh, I'm retiring, Sylv, next year. I said, retiring from what? He said, proper job.
7 minutes.
And I said,
Ask you one more
okay, but what about your music?
legacy.
He said, oh, yeah, I'm going to do it. I said, listen, now's the time to do your bleeding album. Leave history that you were here. And that's the problem. We used to all work with a guy called Wyatt, right? Do you remember him? Yeah. Wonderful man.
Respect
Wonderful
that
man.
Wyatt, man, yeah.
Right? Now,
Good guy.
Wyatt is like Miss
Brandy.
yeah, Mrs. Brandy. His house wasn't a living room, it was a rehearsal hall where everybody went and jammed and rehearsed and did their thing, yeah? And he played guitar with his band and he did the local places. But to be honest with you, he was a good songwriter and he wrote a tune that I love and I'm gonna do it. But this man never got not even a record out.
Yeah.
And that's happening to a lot of artists. Why? Because the information that goes out is that it's impossible to have a record or to be creative unless you've got a record company or unless you've got... It's a lie from the pit of hell. You could do it, right? And now it's even easier because you've got all the information online, right? But the only thing that these kids have been forced to understand is you can't do it unless you've got a major player behind you.
Well, not everyone. Because I'm gonna wrap up, and before I ask you a final question, I'm gonna put something to all of you that I've been speaking to a lot of young musicians, and Manchester musicians have more of an issue than artists in Bristol, London, and Birmingham, because they say that more of the elder musicians jam with them as younger musicians, and it seems like all of you in here could jam. I know Sylvia's done it with the near choir, but all of you could jam with those musicians, like DJ, and help them along, and that's a big thing. And I've asked.
We do. He's done workshops. He's done
I'm
workshops.
talking about a regular. So I'm just going to put it out there. A regular jam, right? That's where it's regular, where they have them, and they have them in. They have them in London. They have them in Birmingham, Bristol. No, let me just finish.
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing it out there because there's quite a lot of you sat in here, that could.
Tell her. She's behind the door
Right, so
here.
where? Right, okay. So people are watching. So if there's musicians now, where do they go to
Charlton.
jam?
Charlton.
Where? Go on, tell everyone. Where?
We do the Night Centre every Wednesday.
Yeah.
Fred and Matt.
We do Matt and Fred.
Matt
Right.
and Fred.
When? So you can put it out there when?
We do Band on the Wall.
Band on the
Yeah.
wall. What's the other ones?
We used to do Marley Cheeks.
Yeah.
We used to do
What's that one on the hill?
Gallery. Gallery.
Endless.
Right, so Wednesdays.
Since 2010 or 2013.
Right. So you need to put it out there, so I'm just asking you.
The Night Centre is back to
Shall I tell
I
you?
know, I'm
You
just-
said, what is the injustice? That is the injustice. We don't get sponsorship. We don't get, we just about get places that we can
So
perform in.
people are listening, so I'm asking it so we can hear it. So there's Wednesday. Go on. Yeah.
and collect sometimes 20 quid.
Right. So we have to tell them, share the reality of it, don't we? So share the
Ask
reality
him.
of it.
He'll tell you.
Every Wednesday.
And when are you at Matt and Fred's?
We're at Matt and Fred's usually on the first Monday. Blues nights, fairly full. But most of the people come are people from outside.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Come to attend.
So that's what you see. What I'm highlighting about. There seems there's a problem with the Manchester
This is
artists
what I'm
connecting in
saying.
because. So that's just one thing to say. And then the other thing, which is what Keith was saying about just elevating the fact that we're to connect with the musicians like yourself. So we highlight it.
But you
to say
see
it's
what you
available.
do. You put us on the map a lot of times, right? And it's going to be again you putting us on the map. You see, like how you put on this event. If we could do things like that, like you every week, you know that it's going to be at Matt and Fred's, or it's going to be at the Night Centre, or it's going to be at the like what you did for this event. At least then people can be aware of it in the colleges, in the universities, right? They can be aware of it. We don't get aware of it. They don't get aware of it unless they're local and they're hanging at the Night Centre.
Yeah, you're right. It's just like passing train. The students, even from out of town, when they pass in the Naya, some of them just wandering off.
Yeah,
and come in.
exactly, yeah.
And it's always them having a dance. And as you rightly say, a lot of the kids, they need something to point them where to go.
Thank you.
And we do our best with Facebooks and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, we do that.
So just to wrap up, because you were saying as well you do, but what else would you kind of like to come out of like today in terms of like keeping that going or more opportunities? So I'll let you go first. Trevor?
I just think there's some learning. Some of the things I've heard today. I want to join your workshop, by the way.
You can.
Because when I think about it, looking back, it was so naive. We signed up to a deal that went sour, and we couldn't get out of it, and we had to pay back money. So it's just, all that kind of stuff we don't want to ever go through again. I suppose, lessons learned to pass on to the younger generations, really, and whether, workshops, another workshop, something a bit more formal, involving instruments and, getting on the mic.
Listen, we used to get sponsored, right? They used to give us a budget. I remember singing for a whole heap of government people just to get a budget.
Yeah.
Singing in front of them.
I'm going to let Keith, because we're going to have to wrap up, so Keith, what would you want? You've got thoughts on this.
Okay. Let me just let you know exactly what brought me here from the beginning. I was actually invited to the town hall, the Central Library. I was at town. No, it was a town hall for a meeting. A lady called Judy Hanley invited me to a carnival meeting. I was actually too early, and in order to play for time while I was waiting, I saw that there was an advertisement that there was an exhibition of musicians that was carrying on there. So I thought, let me go and have a look at this exhibition while I'm waiting past the time. So I went to look at the exhibition, and it was a photograph exhibition of musicians. Now, this was happening within my town, where I live in Manchester. And I'm looking at these musicians. I'm seeing Bob Marley. I'm seeing Motown. I'm seeing Thin Lizzy. I'm seeing, all these other international stars that's happening in Manchester. And I'm sort of thinking, but wait a minute, this is in Manchester. Where's the local talent that I know of? People know of other local, other musicians and bands, like Spooky, like Arrival, artists like Sylvia Teller, Sweet Sensation, and not one of them, nothing was there, to indicate, musicians from Manchester. And I sort of thought, well, this is not right. So I went to, called my friend Ewan Clark, sitting over there. And he says, well, if you have a word with John Savage, he'll put you in contact with Matt at the archives. And that's where it started. It blossomed from there with regards to see, how can we get the establishment, people, like the local council, university that put on events that can sort of, try to see if we can highlight people from Manchester, let people, from the world see what Manchester's got to offer as well. We've got the Naya Centre that goes on every single Wednesday, and it's a joy to see that there's an actual bands that are getting together, doing actual music, live music as well. And then we've got a lot of young talent that's going on as we speak. They're going out to other countries and,
So what was the outcome? Sorry. What was the outcome of that meeting you had when you said...
Here, they brought me here. This is it. This is the outcome.
This is the outcome.
This is
she did that.
After 1.5 years.
Yeah, but that's always left down to her. She was the one who did the documentary. And now I'm going to blow your trumpet. I'm going to blow their trumpet.
Hold on, before you go on. It's been an ongoing thing for which I've been going on, and we've had a meeting. Me and Karen has had a meeting, and we was invited here in order to tell our story. This is not.
No, I'm not talking about the story. I'm talking about the idea that you said.
This platform is not. It wasn't my idea. I was just invited to come here just to tell.
It's a whole nother.
Tell my story.
I know, but what I'm saying is, I'm sorry. I just want to get to this point. You just said, right, about not seeing nobody's photos. I thought you'd done so, because I heard at Band on the Wall, they had, because they even had me in there.
Oh yeah,
right?
have, yeah.
And they were calling it Heroes and Sheroes of Manchester. And that guy, what's his name, had done a book called The Mancunians, and I'm in that with all the other Mancunians. Now, those are positive things. You was at a meeting with someone and made an idea that, how come you got Thin Lizzy, you got this, you got that, and you've got no Manchester artists? And you know that we have a lot of Manchester artists.
Oh yeah, well this is it.
Why can't we have, just like a museum, like you could do it even in the Naya Centre, you could do it in the library. We do African events all the time in the library, in the museum, right? We could do that using these are the things that people then can recognise that, oh, we've got artists.
What I'm saying is that we have a load of isolated individual events, and why can't the establishment give us enough funding so that it can be collected?
Back to my point, funding.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And if it's to create awareness, that's what it's about as well.
Yeah, but the problem is, why is it that we can't get the funding? Right? That's what I want to know. Everybody else can get funding.
But also, I think the other side of it, just because we'll have to move it on, is that when I've spoke to Keithley, it's about things aren't connected. So there's a Greater Mancunas exhibition, which I'm in, which the college students at Manchester went and photographed everyone over 7 years. So they address that issue. There is something in Bands on the Wall, but people going in the Bands on the Wall won't necessarily see it. And I think it's just about connecting it, because there's things happening, and particularly as like black audience, we're not always aware of that, and we can't see it in institutions, in places that are establishment. And I think we just have to ask. That's the other kind of side of it.
Back to that same point. When any time there's an event, we can go on Eventbrite, we can do this, we can do that, but we don't do it for workshops or for for promoting other creative ideas. We don't do it. I didn't even know I was in Band on the Wall. Somebody took a picture and sent it to me. I went, oh.
And she's in the Whitworth Art Gallery. Sonia Boyce has done a documentary.
I never knew half of these things, and this is the point I'm making.
But we've got, let's just, because we have to keep on time, we're going to crash the events. We've got another question before we close.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Cut a long story short. Funding. Do you have anybody that works with you that can apply for funding?
Oh yeah, we've been trying. We've done apply for funding and got funding, but what I'm showing you is now there's no funding, because if it's not to do with mental health, the creativity is not getting... It used to be about the creativity, but unless you've got mental issues, you're not getting no money.
So do you know anybody outside the box that knows who to ask for funding for?
Let's just have Matt from the Pot Archive. He's going to make a point here. Go.
Hi, so just to answer that and to explain... So today is the start of the project, in essence. It was the first chance. We've been talking to Keithley for about a year, and the original idea was to start to think about, we are predominantly an archive, so we collect physical material. That's our aim, and that's what we do with the British Pop Archive. But in discussions with Keithley, what we were starting to think about was, because there's so many stories out there, and we don't want necessarily, some people haven't got materials, some people haven't kept posters and flyers and documents and all those kind of things. It's important that we still collect that kind of material, but we also collect people's stories, and we can also bring people together where they can have those conversations, so we can capture oral histories and all those kind of things. So the funding question, in essence, is we are the funding pot.
Have you actually asked people in the community if any of them know how to get funding?
Well, that's just a thing for everyone to take your point. It's just a thing that, again, that's people need to ask, and that's something even I've been doing as Matt.
So what's your name?
Matt.
So, look for you, Matt. I'm going to look for you.
So what we're hoping to do, I mean, I can't announce it yet, but the idea is that we start to have future events that bring people together. Exactly what form those events take, I'm not too sure yet. This is, again, what I wanted to do today was to have some stories be told, which has been absolutely brilliant. I think everyone would agree that this has been an amazing event. So thanks so much for your... But we can then start to... And I'm hoping it's going to be at the NIA Centre. I've contacted them, so I'm trying to get that situation. So it might be that on the day of a jam night, so the library, bring the materials together so people can bring in material, we can start to image them. So the only way that we can get the other stories added into the archive is to put ourselves in a position where we can capture those stories. So it's, as I say, we've got a way to go yet. We're not, as I say, today is the start of it. So think about it in that sense. If in 2 years' time we've done nothing, then you can have a go at me.
No, I'm
Do you
just
know what
glad
I mean?
to know that somebody exists.
But today is the start of it. So let's just. No, what I'm saying is, in that time, you can have a go at me. No, I'm saying you can have a go at me if we haven't done anything.
And that's
in
a
that time.
wrap.
But we'll get there.
Thank you.
We'll get there.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you. Nice one, Matt.
To give a big round of applause to these amazing speakers. Thank you, Karen.